Greetings and welcome to Office Hours with Dr. G. I'm your host, Dr. G, and I am so glad you could keep our appointment. Well, tonight's guest is no stranger to Office Hours with Dr. G or the chat room with a lot of you. He is Dr. Botanica, and tonight he's going to present disease or disobedience. Has your immune system failed you, or have you failed your immune system? A little bit about him. Dr. Botanica began studying herbology and nutrition at age 10 and became an advocate of natural health and developed a love for wildlife while participating in gardening, fishing, and hanging around a racetrack. And after seeing a cancer campaign ad on the dangers of smoking, he was able to encourage his parents to stop smoking. And from that time on, he read many books and studied herbal medicine. In 78, Dr. Botanica began a serious search for a cancer cure after learning his father's stomach cancer diagnosis. When his father transitioned that same year, the medical profession's failure to help his father recover ignited a deeper interest in alternative medicine. As time went on, he witnessed several relatives experience chronic and degenerative diseases. Now, after a career in corporate America and radio ended, Dr. Botanica, who had continued to study several healing modalities, jumped into the natural products industry with both feet. And in 1974, he opened his first health food store called Grassroots. The same year, while attending a National Nutritional Expo in Las Vegas, Nevada, he met the late Dick Gregory and the man who would become his mentor in Oriental medicine, Dr. George Love. Dick Gregory and Dr. Botanica shared many of the same interests, and he was intrigued to find out that he owned a health food store, which Dick Gregory visited, and that they were both natives of St. Louis. In 1997, Dr. Botanica opened Words and Herbs, a combination book and herbal store, and in 1999, he expanded Grassroots to 2 other locations. Now, since 1994, Dr. Botanica has attended over 200 natural health and alternative medicine events, which have allowed him to acquire professional education and training in clinical nutrition, traditional Chinese medicine, Ayurveda medicine, metabolic therapy, homeopathic medicine, and bioidentical hormone therapy. In addition, he has studied through correspondence with several other pioneers. Now, Dr. Botanica received a PhD in health science in 2011 from Claremont University. And he has received a certification from the National Certification Commission for Acupuncture and Oriental Medicine several years prior, as well as earning certifications and training certificates in complementary and alternative medicine since 1998. And I could go on, but I will not, because it's much, much more than you can tell us. Welcome to Office Hours with Dr. G. I was trying to get all of that in Dr. Botanica, but that
you did very well.
I got some of it. I skipped, and I got a little tongue-tied, but there's a lot to read. There's a lot to you. You have a very vast background, and so I am glad or happy once again to have you back on the show and to talk about a very important subject. We've spoken about offline, of course, with regard to the immune system, and you were sharing with me about I think it's called cytocystine, or I can't even say it right, but there's something that happens during certain parts of the year, and there's preparation that needs to be made from a health standpoint, and you're going to share that among some other things with us tonight. So again, welcome back to Office Hours with Dr. G, and this time you were in the guest seat and not in the chat room. But how are you?
I'm doing well, very well, and glad to be back. And
before you get started, let me say this. Please press that like and share. Please let somebody know the information that's going to be shared tonight is vital. There's a lot of information there's a lot of disinformation being spread out amongst the airwaves, and you need to hear the truth about what you need to do to keep you and your loved one healthy. So please, don't think that this is not an important presentation. And as a matter of fact, it's important for them to be on the live because they have questions. So please share. If you're on here, please press like, give us a thumbs up, and share. Now you're on, Dr. Botanica.
Yeah. You basically, hit it basically on point. propaganda is actually more detrimental than the actual germ that is promoted, because what's going on, the propaganda is infiltrating the subconscious mind.
Absolutely.
Okay, and so people are, end up, even though they are say one thing, the background, they're like, oh, what should I do? You know, um, and that is a part of the disobedience to the natural laws of life. And this is the, we're in the end game, but the creator and all the elements around us are much more powerful than anything that can be developed, especially within our body. Okay, we have hundreds of thousands, I mean, millions, trillions of cells within the body. And it's a phenomenal world of cellular health. And we really don't realize how powerful the internal temple actually is. When you talk about, like, and that's one of the reasons that we discussed the title, disobedience, disease, and disobedience, because, or disease, or is it disobedience? Because you have to look at the underlying cause of one's condition. How did this manifest in the first place? How did you develop arthritis? How did you develop cancer? How did you develop some sort of autoimmune disease, or this particular germ? And what's amazing is that of all the diseases, diseases, and maladies on the planet, we allow this one particular thing to scare you into the grave, to create a pre-existing, condition just based on fear. The number one is, like you asked, what's the number one killer in America right now? The number one killer. It's not that thing they're talking about. Heart disease. Heart disease is still the number one killer. I mean, I've witnessed many, and I literally mean many people over the years. I mean, anything from walking in the house with a grocery basket. One of my mentors that worked in radio, that mentored me in radio, walking in on a Thursday, handful of groceries, falls back, has a heart attack, on a Thursday. Daughter finds him a few days later, you know, he's been gone, had passed on, back on Thursday. So another gentleman that I had knew very well, cutting his lawn, died on his, cutting the lawn. So heart disease, heart attack is still the number one killer, but we're fearing something that we don't even understand. And most of you have heard Stevie Wonder's lyrics in Superstition. If you believe in things you don't understand, then you suffer.
You're right. And I wanted to say, because I had just read where that actor from the soap opera, so I think his name was, he's from General Hospital and something else, or one of those others, Jay Pickett. He was filming a movie yesterday or day before yesterday, and he was on a horse and he had a heart attack, fell off and died, 60.
Wow.
So, you're right. Folks are leaving here, looking healthy, but looks are deceiving.
Absolutely. I mean, my best friend who played for the Steelers had a short career with the Steelers. If you saw him, he was the epitome. Had no body fat. He was cut like the Rock, just a smaller version of the Rock. And we kept talking about his, and I didn't know he was that ill internally. And the brother talked to him a week prior. He wasn't able to contact me. Next thing I know, I get a phone call from his sister that he was found dead. He went into a diabetic coma. But if you looked at him, you couldn't tell. But he would give me signals like, hey, what, I know he was kind of dehydrated periodically. And he would ask me about diabetes, and I would tell him, and or give him a protocol. But you know how people are very close to you, they don't really listen. So yeah, looks are very, very deceiving. I've had the opportunity to assist some, and some I couldn't help. I mean, very beautiful women, slim and trim, dying of stomach cancer, colon cancer, breast cancer. And so when you go back and talk about disobedience, you knowingly or unknowingly are disobedient to your temple, because we have the evil spirits, whatever you want to call them, colonists or whatever, have created a very structured form of trickery to disconnect us from the elements, from what gives life. Period. So we get into entertainment, we get into this, we get into that, and we have forsaken nature. We have forsaken true creations. The book of Hosea says, my people perish for a lack for knowledge, and I will reject thee, because
Because they what?
they fail to seek the knowledge.
Well, it says, "For thou hast rejected knowledge." And that's the thing. A lot of times, preachers will quote that scripture out of context without putting in all that's important. I'm not saying you're a preacher, but it's important to know it's not that knowledge doesn't present itself because you have no need that any man should teach you, because things come even internally, come, if you will, etherically and what you might call spiritually. But when you reject the truth of the knowledge that's coming to you, then yes, you will perish. Yes, you will fall prey to the deceptive practices, employees of those that seek to destroy you, to steal, to rob, kill, steal, destroy, whatever. So you have to know when knowledge is coming and be accepting of it. And a lot of folks, like, they know, oh yeah, I grew up with him. And he wasn't even Botanica when I met him. You know what I mean?
Right.
I know Naila. I remember her when she was Pat. So they don't want to hear
Right.
what you have to say. They want some big name hotshot guru to tell them something that they don't even know whether or not this individual is legit or not. But because you've got a name for yourself doesn't mean you got a track record of always being right. And so folks have a way of rejecting the knowledge that is presented to them based on the I want to say the vehicle or the vessel that the knowledge comes through.
Exactly. And and I tell people, and people like, "Are you a doctor, this doctor or that?" No, I'm just a messenger. I'm here to provide you with knowledge and a protocol that can possibly help you, help your body to thrive, and possibly achieve longevity. Nothing is promised. And again, when you talk about fear, you know, again, when you talk about heart attack, or it was a part in a movie called Heat, and where Al Pacino, when the guy goes to the junkyard, and the guy hooks him up with his cousin to tell him about a prisoner, ex-con, that he was trying to track down, and the brother said, I could get killed for telling you something like this. And Al Pacino said, "You get killed walking your dog." So we allow fear to really trump the actual disease. And so we have to go back into analyzing, how do we get in this position? Do people actually, when you wake up in the morning, do you really feel good when you wake up in the morning? You're stiff, you got headache, chronic fatigue, all these things. You got, phlegm, coughing up phlegm and things like that. And we don't analyze what we're consuming. And this is disobedience. I mean, you don't read the labels. And again, this is nothing personal. This is all about business. After the Industrial Revolution and the topsoil started being depleted through over abuse on the soil, on the topsoil, and then the introduction or the advent of white flour, white sugar, adulterated, irradiated food, and even the Albions that wrote the book and did the studies. It said because of the quote unquote white man's foods of commerce, tooth decay and bone deformities ran rampant because of refined food. So when people buy food in the grocery store, and I've said this many times, they don't analyze what they're buying. They don't look on the label. And the fact of the matter is, one of the reasons people have chronic and degenerative disease is because they have never eaten real food. They've eaten chemical bulk matter, which is under the guise of food, it says natural, but it's really not food. And even when you use, for example, toothpaste, and which was one of the instruments that was used to dumb down the population. Matter of fact, it was in my first book, Medicine, chapter I called Fluoride: How America Really Got Brainwashed, because it actually compromised the capacity of freedom of thought. But again, this is a part of being disconnected with nature. We should be intuitively, if something you put in your mouth, your brain and your body give off a signal saying that, hey, this is not right. This is going to give you some type of immediate side effects. Like, for example, if you ate something with MSG in it, you're going to appear to have like brain fog, and it's like oxygen is being cut off to the brain, slowing down the neurons in the brain, which MSG is what they call an excitotoxin, along with aspartame, NutraSweet, and things like that. They destroy the neurons in the brain and cause blood stagnation, and that's one of the things that's going on among people within the body is blood stasis or blood stagnation. They have a deficiency of vitamins, minerals, trace elements. And so, but again, they truly believe they're consuming food, but they're consuming chemical bulk matter that is marginally compromising your response to disease. For example, the immune system is immaculate. There's a whole nother world. If I was able to do a PowerPoint presentation and break down what happens when an invader invades your body, you have something called the microphage, which is the first line of white blood cell defense, is what the pioneers used to call the Paul Revere of the immune system. And it actually appoints captains called B lymphocytes, T lymphocytes. Then you have other things called basophils, neutrophils, all these different components, natural killer cells. They're actually called natural killer cells because they seek out and attack the virus. They seek out and attack the cancer cell. They infiltrate the cancer cell and cause it to explode. But again, if you're dormant, if the immune system is complacent, like most of us are in this country, well, there is no activity. There is no strategic defense mechanism. So disease starts to manifest. My mentor, Dr. Love, who's 72 now. If you look at him and follow the Qigong protocol, this man has the vitality of a 35-year-old at 72.
I
But his
followed today. Thank you for the invitation for the live Qigong class. And, I especially like that song at the end.
yeah,
The moves, but you're right. He has
yeah.
a lot of vitality.
Right, and so I started studying with Dr. Love in '95, and that's when I've told this story before, where I dropped 37 pounds in 3 weeks, and because though I was traveling and being health conscious, I was still at that time I had started gaining weight because I was I had certain things that I had still indulged in, like like most of us do. So he put me on a juice feast, at the time. And I went from in 3 weeks went from I think it was 242 down to 208. And that's when I was taught and found out, even when I was in school, it's not the body that requires calories, it's the brain. So I would run for a mile and a half every morning, push-ups, sit-ups, and things like that. And I would do the juice feasting, which was carrot, beet, celery, spirulina, bee pollen, which was fortifying my brain, ginseng, would it be American ginseng or Korean, and green tea. So a lot of people don't even know how to eat, and we said this before. They just sit at the table and they consume food without having any knowledge on proper food combining. It should be a natural instinct, and this is why we don't see Asian people in and out of the hospital, in and out of the cardiologist's office, in and out of the oncologist's office, in and out of the OBGYN's office, because they thrive on their own ancestral diet. Okay, so we the people here in this land are victims of the standard American diet, which they call SAD. Yeah, and there was a guy, a professional by the name of John Robbins, who wrote a book called Diet for a New America. Now he was one of the sons of the people that own Baskin and Robbins. So he left the company because he found it to be very disgusting, because he discovered what dairy products really do to the body. So he basically left the family fortune and went on to on this holistic journey and wrote this famous book called Diet for a New America. Became a vegetarian because the fact of the matter is, though people, contrary to what you hear, yeah, dairy is not so good for the body. I know we all indulge in ice cream periodically, but the fact of the matter is like in the cold winter time, you see people buying dairy products and whole milk. Well, that's clogging up the body. You're dealing with a cold substance during a cold winter month, and it's going to proliferate excess phlegm. And so you're not going to be able to purge that phlegm out if you're fighting a cold. You see people with their, I see children with their nose, just clogged up, and a lot of times that's coming from the mucus. Sugar, sugar is actually a drug, refined sugar anyway. But if you eat a confectionery, which people think is chocolate, it's not chocolate, it's a confectionery. And it will shut down your T cell production, and that's what white sugar will do. It will shut down literally your immune response. So this is one of the reasons people have a decaying internal body, because of all the refined food we've gotten away from cooking. Most people now don't cook at all. I have a client of mine in California has never cooked, and they developed combination of Crohn's disease, H. pylori syndrome, all at once. Dropped like 40 pounds in like 2 or 3 months. He was just, so he had to get back on a program. I had to put him on a program to rebuild that gut area, reestablish the function of the spleen. So we get up, but we don't study how to live. We just think we could continue to thrive with no repercussions because we become so disconnected and disobedient to nature.
Yes, I just want to stop you because before it goes any further, I just saw a comment in the chat, and I want you to address it. We did this on a second show, but I just want there's one. I'm just gonna put it up here. This person took. I want you to see that. I know that you. It says that Scott Witter. You mentioned your book Medicine, so somebody wrote that in the chat, and I want you to address that, please.
Well, I'm glad because that we always need to get the record straight.
Yes, okay? We do.
First of all, whoever stated the comment, let me tell you something. That book came to me in my dream in December of 2004. Okay, and I had written the book while going through a divorce or getting ready through a separation at the time before the divorce. I had written literally 80% of the book before I even called Scott. Okay, this is the truth. Okay, that endorsement that came from Dick Gregory was through me. I presented the manuscript to Dick. And Dick said, no, you're taking a risk of writing this type of book. I said, well, I want to go ahead and expose the history of the origin of the mechanical methodologies of Western medicine. He said, well, whatever you do, I'll endorse it because, I got your back. Because keep in mind, Dick and I were very close. I was like a son to Dick since 2000, since 1994. As a matter of fact, I was going to write a book on Dick, and one of the publishers or his publicist say, you need to go ahead and write the book because you practically knew him as much as was as close to him as his own children. So Dick endorsed my practice for over 24 years. And so when I written the book, I designed the cover, get the record straight. I designed the cover. I called Scott up and wanted to give him his wings because we were networking at the time. Okay. Under Jose Fleming, that was my ex-rail, my former straw name, my birth name at the time.
Yeah, so I'm sure she has seen Jose Fleming, did not know that's
yeah,
you.
Yeah.
That was you.
Yeah, I changed my name over almost 15 years ago.
Well, you corrected your status, actually.
Yeah, correct. When I corrected my status. So Scott had went around, and what I, and
the book,
don't give me.
We talked about this. His name is first because there was an error in the printing because you told him don't change it because you were actually the one that wrote the book and he wrote a couple of chapters, if I'm not.
He wrote a few chapters in the book. Matter of fact, the Rising Sun Publications was the first publisher to broke the book, and Alvin Morrow, who wrote the book, The Curse of Willie Lynch. Alvin Morrow. And everybody kept saying, you need to do that book by yourself. I said, nah, I'm just going to go ahead and give him his wings and, give him an opportunity. And I still appreciate the diligence of the brother by going around and doing the lectures, on medicine. I don't regret that. But people, definitely need to know who is the creator. I'm a visionary. I am a visionary. I decided to be an entrepreneur in the 5th grade. I came up with a cartoon company called Tip Top Animated Cartoons in the 5th grade. So I've been, I've always been that lone wolf. I've always, just like the other books I created, Whole Foods. I've always been a wordsmith. Whole Foods Miseducation of the Health Nut, Stealing a Woman's Treasure.
Whole Foods, not Whole Foods.
Right.
It's like, okay.
Yeah, so I've always been creative. So that's how I came up, but the actual title of the book came to me in my dream, Medicine, because again, I guess the ancestors wanted me to write the book, because it was the first book of its kind at that time, though they had Kevin Trudeau with Cures They Don't Want You to Know and other people that wrote books in the past. But the book that I designed and created the chapters like why fluoride, how America really got brainwashed, and why was America really afraid of a weed called hemp? The history of the AMA, things like that, the germ theory. I think that was a chapter that Scott and I both collaborated on. But yeah, over 80% of the book was written by me, and just to set the record straight. And that's how the endorsement came through Dick, because Dick saw the manuscript and he decided to endorse the book.
Absolutely. I just wanted to, I already knew the story, and I knew that you were Jose Fleming. You don't look like a Jose, but you are Jose Fleming before your. Give us your free national name, as a matter of fact, because I know Dr. Botanica is your brand, but what is your free national appellation?
Khaliq, Madu, alim-el. Okay. And basically, you're talking, Khaliq being the creator and Madu being for the people, and a seeker of knowledge, which is, and I tell you, I guess I was always destined to be on this journey. Because as a child, my nickname was Doc and Captain. Some people would call me Doc. and some of the older people called me captain. So I always represented that leadership. Even when I opened up the first health food store, because I never acquired a loan, I opened up the health food store with a combination of 3 credit cards. And the first grassroots store, it was the first full line health food store owned by Asiatic in that area of St. Louis or in St. Louis in general. So, we combined the cultural, like a lot of African art at the time. It was in the paper, and about four entrepreneurs. But again, I created the grassroots title. Then I went on to open up 3 other health food stores, and so after I got kind of burnt out in retail because I wasn't getting because even though I had the health food store, I still had a desire to develop a cooperative economic system. And because most of the dispensaries that when you learn about the industry, a lot of these companies are family owned or they started out as a co-op, and that's the issue that I have with our Asiatic people. You have too many chiefs and not enough Indians. And it's better to get 5% of something than 0% of nothing. And so that couldn't manifest. So basically, after I finished my studies at the International College of Traditional Chinese Medicine in New Mexico, um, I went to open up the store, but I decided to go into my own practice, and I had some wonderful mentors. I mean, I had Albions that in late age, they were older, but I had the opportunity to meet some phenomenal people and correspond. And this is why I classify myself as multidimensional. And the company I opened up after that time was called All Health Concerns because I was literally able to address all health concerns. Because once you have that background in traditional Chinese medicine and metabolic therapy, which I had the opportunity to study digestion therapy in Tijuana, Mexico, and so you're able to address any malady because you understand how the whole body works. It's not, I mean, how the association of the kidney and the heart, the spleen being the master of digestion. Even in Western medicine today, they really don't understand the functions of the spleen because if they did, it wouldn't be so much IBS or irritable bowel syndrome and Crohn's disease. They really don't understand the function of the spleen, whether it be excess or deficient, damp, dry, things like that. That's the magnificence of a 35 to 4,000-year-old modality going all the way back. And of course, we all are familiar with Imhotep, who is the true father of medicine, who Hippocrates learned from 1,200 years or so later, from his writing, from his papyri. So, I had some great mentors. I can go on and on. I mean, Dr. Rath, who's a world-renowned German physician, the late Samuel Epstein, who was phenomenal, who wrote several books on cancer, who was featured in the corporation. Just the Charlotte Gerson herself, who was the daughter of Max Gerson, who came over to the States from Germany and had major success in curing tuberculosis, along with going on to cure various types of cancer. So, yeah, I've been around. It's not too many people that can honestly say they have actually successfully brought people from a stage 4 lung cancer with brain metastasis, given 6 months to a year to live. And if you look at the meta-analysis, anyone with lung cancer, whether it be non-small cell or small cell, with metastasis to the spine or the brain, even with the best system, live beyond that. Within 14 months, this man was my first case. 14 months, there was no sign, and we interviewed the pulmonary doctor, the primary care physician, the chemo oncologist, radiation oncologist. They had never seen anything like it in 25 or 30 years of their practice. I did the same thing several times, and but I don't cure anything, and I don't make the claim to cure anything. Your body cures itself if it's given the right modality. If you are true to your body, just like your immune system, it will be true to you. But we abuse it. Again, we're disobedient. So there are many different modalities out there. There's no such thing as one panacea. You have to be able to incorporate exercise, detoxification, diet, bioavailable nutrients, organic food, so yeah, disease manifests because you're being disobedient to your body. That's just a signal. You got a stomach ache, you ate something you shouldn't have eaten. You got a headache, you know. One of the reasons I wrote the book, Stealing a Woman's Treasure, because I got tired of seeing sisters abusing their body with toxic, products, eating poorly, things like candida. A lot of women walk around with candida, don't even know they have candida, fibroids, things like that. So I got tired of seeing the women. Every time every other woman you would see, oh, I had a partial hysterectomy, or I had a thyroid surgery. You see the slit in the throat. So I decided to write the book, Stealing a Woman's Treasure, because they unknowingly don't realize how much they have abused the body and have been disobedient to life and nature. So yeah, that's my mantra is to really reconnect people back to nature.
And that's important. I just want to say, um, Sister Denise Townsend says, thanks for clearing up the origin of the book and your name. She said, I have the book and it's awesome. So
Well,
thank
there's a
you.
2021 version coming out soon. Medicines 2021.
S on it. Yeah. So
Yeah,
addition.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And but the thing is, we have a very strong immune response. But again, when it's like I was at the store where I am right now, and I'm seeing someone there. I guess they were on break. They apparently worked in a hospital. They're buying Snickers bar, all this stuff, hot dogs, stuff like that. And I'm like, you're compromising all these things that can resist whatever's out there. There is nothing out there that man made or any disease that the human body cannot conquer. And that's the power of like even qigong. I mean, we were talking about qigong before we went on, how powerful that is because you get into tonifying the qi, the shin, and the jing, which are three very important elements to maintain balance. That's what that whole yin and yang sign is. It's about balance. You can't be excess or deficient. So even when you get blood work, you'll see these ranges. If your LDL is too high or your HDL is too low, or your albumin levels are off track, or your hemoglobin A1C or things like the HC reactive protein. These are things that are telling you that there's no balance, and you got one foot on a banana peel and one in the graveyard, you know. So I mean, but if you really look at people, you look at this. I got about 100 and maybe 130 some people that were multimillionaires, including Steve Jobs. And you look at how does one that has so much wealth succumb to chronic and degenerative diseases, diabetes, arthritis, cancer. Louis Vuitton's, see, one of Louis Vuitton's CEOs dies of pancreatic cancer. Barbara Tuff, who ran Crate and Barrel, pancreatic cancer. Charlie Bell, 48 years old, CEO of McDonald's, dies of stomach or colon cancer. Steve Jobs, multi-billionaire. So, I mean, you going on, Patrick Swayze, all these different people. It's like, man, but you have a very humble man by the name of Dr. Lee Ching Young, who lives 200 years, you know, literally dies in 1933. And, the New York Times didn't believe it. So they sent the journalists over there at the time. And so he found that he did live at least 200 years. There was a famous book written by the founder of iridology, Dr. Bernard Jensen, who wrote a book called Life and Longevity. And he went around the world to see all these different people and studied their life and their longevity. And even in one of the Chinese material medical books, there was a tissue cleansing through bowel management.
Dr. Jensen, yeah, I had to I feel like I got something a little bit on the show.
Yeah, and when you talk about plaque, we have amyloid plaque throughout the body from all this toxic food and this residue that it leaves behind in the colon, in the brain. When you're looking at dementia, you know, dementia actually, according to research, starts as young as 49 years old. But the fact of the matter is, after 35, you lose a great deal of natural brain cell production. So you have something called a monoamine oxidase B inhibitor, right? Is an enzyme that eats up the dopamine in the brain as we get older. And there's a tonic called Hosha Wu or FOT.
Don't I have some of that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Is that like Shaoshi?
Well, Shoshi is a tonic comprised of the polygonal multiflorum, which is FOT, that actually can reverse gray hair, but it's a kidney and liver tonic because in Chinese medicine,
Look, I was
kidneys
when
are
you
the
said that. Look, Grace Sheik drinks that. He drinks that Shaoshi and that other. He turned me on to that a few years back. So that's where I got. I
it's
got
phenomenal. It's
yeah.
phenomenal. It's a kidney and liver tonic because in Chinese medicine, the kidneys are the essence of life. And most people don't realize their kidneys only function at 30% because of stress factor. Their adrenal glands are taxed. They don't jumpstart their adrenals in the morning, like say with pantothenic acid, which is B5, or even salt. If you got Celtic salt, salt actually jumpstarts your adrenal function. Okay, and it's
Or you
also
like a little pinch of Celtic salt in some water and
yeah, or on your tongue, and it's good for the pulmonary system. So your body has to have real salt, not sodium chloride that you people would normally consume, which is table salt, just one isolate on one chemistry molecule is sodium chloride. Yeah, that will slow down your water metabolism, and that will create things like edema. And so you want to have a Celtic salt has over 80 trace elements in there, trace minerals.
as opposed to pink Himalayan salt. Because some people are like, I'll do Himalayan salt, but Celtic salt is a different salt. I have some like
Yeah,
gray.
it's totally different. It's totally different.
It's sort of have some gray Celtic salt.
Yeah,
Crystal.
great Celtic salt.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have the flour Celtic salt. They have which is a little bit more expensive, but yes, this particular type of salt can actually modulate blood pressure. Because the kidneys need salt. And I'm a very help. I eat a lot of salt, a little bit more than I should,
So my
but my
potatoes
blood
start helping my kidneys.
pressure. Yeah, I mean, this is and so.
Are they? I'm saying eating potato chips. That's not the kind of salt you're talking about, right?
Oh, potato chips. Yeah, well,
I'm
yeah.
trying I'm trying to overcome a potato chip addiction, especially when I found out that Mickey D's potatoes are grown on farms owned by somebody whose last name starts with a G and first name is a B. And I was like, well, wonder where else his potatoes are. But I have a thing for potato chips. And I'm eating them and I don't want to eat them.
And I'll be honest with you, I just a month ago just kicked my potato chip habit. Okay, that was my weakness was potato chips.
Do they put something in that? Like you talked about excitotoxins. You talked about MSG, things that actually make people crave or want to have things taste better than they are, so that it
Oh,
masks
yeah,
whatever negative.
yeah. Those you have a biochemist that put together and understand the taste buds to keep
Mhm.
you coming back. That's why you see the yellow arches, the lines, still filled up because they're mixing, like salt and sugar together, and it trains the palate. This is like smoking. These are chemistries that we just can't shake off. Even though I would eat, what I would call organic, like the brand name Kettle Chip, because the commercialized, of course, potato chip has hydrogenated oils, vegetable oil, corn oil, and things like that, MSG, which is a cytotoxin. So yeah, that, and then not to mention, yeah, it will put a lot of weight on you because it will slow down your metabolism.
I'm
You know,
suffering. I'm suffering from potato chips, y'all. Make me feel like I'm short. I'm not short, but yeah, I gotta get over that. Uh, let me see. There's some questions here. Somebody says Denise tells that I love kettle chips jalapeno. Yeah, I like Mrs. Somebody's jalapeno, but I'm not even gonna tell you that. Somebody wanted me to spell the T, but that's Shah, the one that you talked about, the Shua.
the Showuchi,
Well,
S,
yeah.
yeah,
Let me see.
yeah, the SHOU,
SH.
and yes, you can be the SHOU, and then the Wu WU, and then CHI, Show Chi. That's the tonic. Mm-hmm.
On it. But
Uh-huh.
the thing that we have, it's like I think there's two things. There are two things. There's one thing I have. Y'all, some things I can reach out and grab, but some things are downstairs. But I have bottles. I have some. I have two different bottles of things. One is really syrupy, and the other one is more like looks like a oval, like a bottle of more liquidy stuff. So, are you pulling something? No, you drinking water. Okay, but I don't know how. I don't think it's two different things. They're two different tonics that Greshik brings me. Somebody wanted to know what you think about Himalayan salt.
Well, Himalayan salt is, will be a preferred over sea salt. But Celtic salt, through clinical studies, there have been books written by medical doctors that were amazed and about the benefits of Celtic salt. Dr. Brownstein who's actually a medical doctor, wrote a book on Celtic salt. And that would be my preference. I've been using Matter of fact, I was my store was the first store to bring it to the St. Louis area back in '94. The very first one, because nobody had knew what Celtic salt was. But that's the benefit of being attending the industry shows since 1994. Because you're introduced to. I mean, again, our people are trapped in this commercial food matrix. They eat the same things all the time. They don't realize that there's like for example, sweet potatoes. We all love sweet potato pie, but but they don't. But there's jewel yam, there's garnet yam, there's the taro root. There's cassava, there's
Mhm.
yucca. All these different things that just like rice. People just eat brown or white rice. There's red Bhutanese rice. There's black forbidden rice, which was once during a certain dynasty only given to the royal family, but it has very medicinal benefits for the liver as well. There's GABA rice,
All right.
which is the gamma aminobutyric acid. You look that up; it has major benefit. Or sprouted rice. So we have, unfortunately, in the what we call the hood, you see most people buying ramen noodles, okay, which really doesn't digest. you know,
Soba, soba meat, soba
so,
noodle.
soba buckwheat is phenomenal. Udon noodles. What I do is try to help people become more diversified and more simplistic since we're going into this crisis. Because the fact of the matter is, if you have bioavailable nutrients, you only need to eat once a day. There are times that I'll eat once a day and I may do a protein shake and I'll take a certain tonic, things like that. It will take me literally through the entire day. Because again, it's the brain. If you're able to feed your brain with bona fide nutrients, you'll be able to sustain your daily activity. You got to look at even people back work. There were sharecroppers back in the day. They were able to endure 8, 10, 12 hours a day in the hot sun. They didn't have a lunch time. Okay, lunchtime, we're going to go. No, they didn't have that. But they had a stronger physical constitution because their diet was simplistic. Whereas now people have, they are able to indulge in different things at random and don't realize, when you go in to get chicken wings, where's that chicken coming from? What oil are they using? Even the so-called famous, what we call the health food store is not a health food store, but a major chain. What are they using their hot bar? If you look at the ingredients, they're always saying canola oil. And canola oil comes from the rapeseed, and it just means Canadian oil.
Oh.
And because the rapeseed was used to make mustard gas. Okay. So, but they use canola oil because canola, it grows abundantly. It's a weed. It's come from the rapeseed. So they can, produce it at a cheap cost. So you get people buying, and not to mention olive oil. People in the commercial market think they're consuming or buying olive oil. That's a combination of probably canola oil, corn oil. You have to really get true Greek olive oil, like in the tin container. Really. Otherwise, you can be fooling yourself. You're not really buying true olive oil, and olive oil is not a frying oil. As opposed to something like grapeseed oil that has a higher smoke point. If you're going to fry something. But there's so many different things that are just clogging up the body, just like these fake burgers. You're better off eating a real bad burger. Because you don't know what's in that so-called vegan burger. Let me tell you a story. I know four women who were vegan for 20 years. All four acquired breast cancer. The one that two of them I was able to, one I was able to help, who had the most vicious form of breast cancer. It was almost like a flesh eating, and she's still here today because she followed the protocol, and the others did not, and I was not able to help the other two, but they were vegan because they were consuming soy, soy cheese, soy milk. And that matter of fact, in my first book, it was called Soy, the Meatless Deception, because soy creates too much estrogen. And that's one of the problems with our women, particularly our women in this country. They're drowning in estrogen. Okay. And not to mention on the all the other stuff that they consume. Like you'll see someone in the grocery store, they'll think they're healthy or they're eating healthy because they got a basket full of fruits and vegetables, and don't realize pesticides like atrazine, sulfur dioxide, all these different things. Yeah, you might be eating all your fruits and vegetables, but you're consuming chemicals that are carcinogenic, that are proliferating these conditions. There are many people I've known who had a so-called vegetarian diet over the years, but they were eating toxic produce. It's like, when you go into a store and you see a mango, a pack of mango that's real shiny. Well, that contains sulfur dioxide. They preserve it as opposed to a mango that looks just like a mango, just dried. There's a difference between the two. So we have to be able to identify what we're consuming and be more analytical and elevate our intuition.
What about when it says organic? We don't work with those, do we? I want organic.
Don't believe the hype.
I know.
Yeah,
I'm being facetious. I'm being facetious.
Yeah. I think it's a CCOF, certified organic. It was out of California. Now, California, that's why they have the Proposition 95. Because in restaurants out in California, will have on the window, and they'll tell you before you go walk in the restaurant that the food served in this restaurant may contain chemicals that are known carcinogens to cause cancer because of the Proposition 95. Oh yeah, they're really strict on Proposition 95. I have clients in California. There are certain products my dispensary cannot ship products out there because if you have a tad bit of, like, say, arsenic, which you can eat apricot seeds, and the whole B17 thing. But if it has just a tad bit, there's like, nope, you can't sell it. So there are certain pesticides that you could that were banned in the state of California versus like a Florida orange versus California orange. Well, the Florida orange did not have those regulations or restrictions as like the California state of California. So there were certain pesticides that were prohibited from being used. Just like on the body care, now you can buy a commercialized body care like shower gel or soap or lotion, and you look at the panel. If you go to the UK, it's a totally different panel lineup. There's no regulation here. Remember when I wrote the first book, I talked about the Bureau of Chemistry, and also is in the Stealing a Woman's Treasure, where Dr. Harvey Wiley had that department, and they would have what they call the poison squad sample different foods just to observe and see if they could tolerate if they would have any adverse effect for a food that was just being introduced to the industry. So the history of all this is very, very interesting. And again, you're looking at, all the diseases. You're seeing diseases now. Like I say, that thing that they're talking about, that's the least of our worry. Okay. You still got cancer. You still got multiple sclerosis. You still got lupus, which a lot of our sisters are acquiring now. You still got cognitive dysfunction with the growing and developing children. You got young boys that are becoming feminine because of certain pesticides and certain and soy products, which also gives off estrogen, too much estrogen. And going back to our women, yeah, we're exposing ourselves to too much estrogen. We have to internalize knowledge and get out of the look so good mindset, because I was a member of the Cancer Control Society for about 20 years out west, out in California. And shampoos and conditioners were always known to proliferate or increase the risk, at least, of breast cancer, because they have chemicals that are create what they call xenoestrogens, which are synthetic estrogens. And back in the 70s, Dr. Lee was way ahead of his time. When he was talking about xenoestrogens, he was warning people about xenoestrogens because of the bisphenol A. And bisphenol A is just one component. When they start transitioning glass to plastic, where you had Pepsi had hired Amoco Chemical Company to do their bottles, and then you had Coca-Cola who hired Monsanto to do their plastic. So the next thing you know, over time, people were consuming these soda pops that contain phosphoric acid, which is damaging the kidneys anyway.
They were leaching the packaging.
Yeah. So you have this bisphenol A leaching into the fluid and in the cans. So as you see now, most men, their testosterone level is at an all-time low because of the bisphenol A. And not to mention the pesticides like the atrazine, which some people are claiming that is responsible for or altering the chromosomes and altering or why these boys are becoming feminine, in nature. It's coming from the chemicals. That's no secret, because never in the history of man have you ever had anything like that. You may have had, the Romans before they went out to battle were just, from what I was taught in schools, that they would not actually have the direct intercourse with the boys, but they would they would be up close and personal with them before they went to battle. But yeah, I mean, what you're talking about, still in masculine manner or so, but now you got, you have the actual flamboyant, but that is all through chemistry. That is all through, the estrogen and the other estrogen forming chemicals.
But then it's also being promoted by
Oh
other.
yeah, yeah. Music, frequency, all that combined. Subliminal messages through, I tell parents, take them all the way back to Schoolhouse Rock. Get them to watch those cartoons, because, there are subliminal messages. They know how the brain works, I mean, to a degree, and how to manipulate it. But again, in my book, in the Stealing a Woman's Treasure, where I talked about propaganda with Edward Bernays, who was Sigmund Freud's nephew, who actually created public relations. So it was called Propaganda: The Making of the Mind, and so he was the one, which is in my book, who ushered in bacon and eggs for breakfast. That's how bacon and eggs became a prime choice for breakfast. Because of beech nut. Wanted to, they had a vest, the gum company, but they had vested in a huge pork stock. So they had they hired Edward Bernays to do that. So that's how sodium fluoride got into the toothpaste.
Why? Because someone had invested in it.
Well, the aluminum, sodium fluoride was from aluminum processing, and that's another story with Alcoa. But but it was always known by scientists that you can control the masses of people through fluoride because it compromises that part of the brain, some called the occipital lobe, which is
Right there,
it
back
compromises the capacity of freedom of thought. So it's something about fluoride that make people more docile.
it's interesting. I was listening. I mentioned this probably a couple times over the past couple weeks that I've been live. I was reading a book or looking at a video at this point of Paul Wallace, and he was talking about. And that's how I got into reading the Popol Vuh. And in the Popol Vuh, which is like the Mayan Bible, they talk about how when the sky people came down and eventually tweaked who we were into, image and likeness. When it turned out that this version, our version, was more smarter, intelligent than they wanted us to be, they then decided, they say in the text, that they begin to spray the people with stuff and to give them things that would, in essence, dumb them down and take away capacity because it was too much. There was too much leeway for us becoming more so than the ones that we or those ancestors began to look at as gods. Remember, the Bible, talks about this thing like it was a God thing, but you're talking about maybe extraterrestrials doing genetic modifications and then finding out what they modified when they added their DNA into the DNA of who was here on, in this earth realm. They got something that could surpass them. So their next thing was to create something to dumb them down. And they said spray. And I thought about, exterminating roaches and they were exterminating people. We talk about, chemtrails for years. You've heard about that. But they talk about it in this ancient text of how they created something to dumb down what we would call humanity. And to this day, it apparently is still going on because now it's been introduced in the water and the foods and and some of the so-called medicines, things that would sort of disconnect us from our more higher self.
Yeah, it's just like when you look at people, they have lost the capacity to critically think. If they're on medication, it's like, when I interview people or my clients, and I see that they've been on the same medication for a decade, and I asked them, I said, has it ever occurred to you that the body is supposed to be self-managing and self-regulating? Just like when you were born, you had everything worked the way it should. It was only until you had the ability to make a choice that you decide to indulge into what was more toxic, whether it be alcohol, whether it be fast food, and all of a sudden, by the time you reach 30, 35, 40 years old, your body starts to notice your body starts breaking down. You start aching, all these different things. And so you get on medication and you go back like clockwork. You know, it's like you're under a spell and you have lost the, I guess, that intuition. Say, wait a minute. When I was born and when I was going through high school, I didn't have to worry about hypertension. I didn't have to worry about my hemoglobin A1C. I didn't have to worry about my HDL, LDL, or my COX-2 inflammatory function, on things like that. It's like, why am I here? you know, Year after year after year. And instead of, and no one. This is why, again, when I wrote the book, that's why there was nutritional science was not incorporated in the Western academia of medicine. They're not still right to this day required to have a spectrum of nutritional science in the academia because it would not be any room. If people were to find out that even magnesium in its bioavailable form, a quality form, not the magnesium you will buy off the commercial shelf that has magnesium stearate, which is toxic, which is a binder and a filler, but a good bioavailable magnesium can work almost like a statin and normalize and balance your HDL, LDL. Not to mention scientifically proven, clinically proven, to reduce the risk of stroke and heart attack. Okay, so so we have lost that ability. As you can see, what's going on, in the media today, people are like sheep, lining themselves up, never put on the thought you just put on the brakes. Hey, let me analyze this. Let me read a little bit more about what this thing that they're trying to coerce me into doing and submitting to. Let me just have we haven't gotten to that point. We follow directives, uh, and they have destroyed that very special instinct of the higher self, being able to critically think. It's like a mouse. I mean, you got decon, and they go and just and without thinking, say, wait a minute, this is a trap, you know. But
Or a piece of cheese sitting on a big old wooden block, like, oh, I don't know what that about that metal stuff. I just want that cheese right there. And the
yeah,
neck
but
is
they don't see the piece of metal attached to it, and
right,
then
right.
but it's just like we don't. And I've been doing this a long time, and I would interview people, and I would ask them, "Do you ever ask your doctor any pertinent questions about why you're here and why about the?" Uh, and even though I have people have asked their primary care physician, they say, "Well, doc, how long do I have to stay on this medication?" And they'll respond with, "Oh, the rest of your life."
Yeah, I had to make a decision myself about high blood pressure medicine. I haven't been to the primary care physician since before this thing happened. One time I saw him on a tele. I don't even know if I saw him. I think we had a telecall, and I forgot what it was about. But I have not been in, and so for over, I think for the last, I think now it's been about at least 3 months, maybe four. I just, wean myself off of that stuff. I'm like, I've been on this stuff for 10 plus years, and
Mhm.
I need to get myself back to normalcy. And one of the things, when you think in terms of industry, most industry wants you for life. They want a customer for life. They don't want you short term. They want you for life. And even if you're taking herbal, I'm sure the herbal industry wants you for life too. Except the difference in the herbal um, products is that normally you're taking something like it's like food. You're just taking food in a capsule form. So yes, it's making you feel good. It's giving you things that are no longer in the soil and the natural things that you are not getting with your fruits and vegetables because of, like you mentioned earlier, but you're not depending on it so much so to be well from a disease. You're it's no healed from a disease or maintained from a disease because it's never healing. but this is just preventive maintenance and wellness lifestyle. If we were eating properly, I would think, and if the proper nutrients were in the soils, we were drinking and the proper, waters and getting proper amount of sunshine, which I've gotten a lot of this summer, and I'm like 3 shades darker, except in between what doesn't show, like my legs are like, whose body is that? But it lets me know how much sunlight I'm getting. I'm out doing yoga. 7 o'clock. I'll be 7 o'clock in the morning doing yoga, and normally where I'm positioned, the sun is just like right on this side of my face. I mean, it's like beaming down. But I feel that it's healing. You know what I mean? I've been getting beneficial results from being in the sun, just being out in the sun and stretching. But I made a decision about 3 months ago. I'm not taking this stuff anymore, and I've been okay.
Absolutely.
I had a couple of times, when things, but then there were times when I felt like, oh man, I got this headache. Maybe that's what. But then I check my blood pressure, and it's better than normal. You know what I mean? Than it's been. So some of the things that I struggle with, and you and I talked about this, and I want those in the chat room and those who will be listening to this after to take it as an important factor in wellness is sleep, proper sleep. We talked about that, and please talk about that, how important it is to get, because you and I both talked about, your night out too, I'm pretty sure. But I feel it. I do feel it. And then the more and more things pop up and talk about, the weight gain, the inability to lose weight and have heart disease and a whole bunch of other things just because we're not getting like 7 to 9 hours of sleep.
Well, it's like not necessarily the length, but it's the quality of sleep, the deep sleep. It's very what people don't realize if sleep deprivation accelerates aging. Okay, first and foremost, you're also causing damage to your neurotransmitters, whether it be acetylcholine, noradrenaline, serotonin, dopamine. You're damaging the hippocampus. You're causing accelerated brain aging because after 35, you already lose practically 50% of your brain cells. Number two, you have a massive increase of fibrin, okay, which is like a cobweb consuming your blood cell production. So that's why so many people have blood stagnation. But you have to acquire sleep, not only even overnight, but unfortunately, we've been put in a condition by society, by the higher echelons of society, we have been groomed to take a break or take a lunch at 11 to 12 o'clock. Okay. At that time, between 11 and 1, the heart meridian starts its what I call a metabolic function. The heart is most active at that time. It starts its metabolic process. So what do people do during that time? They eat lunch. So they're taxing their heart at that time, because the blood and energy is now derailed toward the stomach to induce peristalsis. When you should be, this is why in certain countries they take a siesta. You should be resting at that time or meditating at that time, not eating a heavy lunch at that time. So you're taxing your heart. So we've never been really groomed on how the body works around the clock. If you're up late, and say if you're up late beyond 2 and 3 o'clock, well, 3 o'clock, that's when the lungs start its metabolic process. And rest assured, you will start to have pulmonary stress if you're not asleep at that time or you stay up beyond that time. Because you keep in mind, every organ has a specific function during the course of the day.
Didn't you send me you have that?
The meridian cycle. Yeah. It's like
we need to get that on the flash drive. We need to get some of your stuff on the flash drive. And that's one of the things that needs, and something about food combining.
Yeah, food combining is very important. But going like for the cycle, your gallbladder is kicking in between 11 and 1 in the morning. Then your liver kicks in its metabolic process between 1 and 3. Then your lungs. Okay, and this is why, like in the morning, when you wake up in the morning, you break fast after sleeping because your digestive system, your large intestine, when you have a bowel movement, is most active. Then your spleen, and then the small intestine at a later time of the day. So again, we when you start combining meat and bread, you're throwing off your digestive process. Meat and bread don't go together. Meat and potatoes don't go together. Okay. Fruit salad doesn't go together because you're dealing with acid and subacid fruits. So you don't drink. Of course, when people go out, they're used to accustomed to drinking cold water, which is shocking their spleen. And this is when you go to a Japanese restaurant. This is why they serve you hot green tea to jumpstart your digestive process.
Or do they give you oolong, also oolong tea?
Yeah, Chinese oolong. Matter of fact, there was a story about the oolong because the oolong is can help promote weight loss. But there was a company on an infomercial.
I didn't know that. I got a whole bunch of oolong in the cupboard.
Well, there was a company that was calling it Wu Yi, and they were selling it for $60 for 60 tea bags. And so when I saw the infomercial, I'm like, Wu Yi, that's oolong, Chinese oolong tea, black tea. And I'm like, you can get 100 tea bags for about $9. So it shows you how the industry, on either side, plays on your intelligence. They get on the infomercial. Oh, this enhances your memory and things like that. And it's only $75 or whatever. But one of the most effective formulas out there at a very economical cost is it's called vinpocetin. Okay.
Spell that because folks gonna say spell that because I don't know.
Vinpocetin was the only neurotropic drug ever approved by the FDA, but it really couldn't make any money off of it or whatever. So they don't really promote it. But
it's over the counter.
It's over the counter. Yeah, I mean, V as in Venus, I-N, P as in Pisces, O-C-E-T-I-N-E. Vinpocetin. Some people call it vinpocetin, but what it does, it enhances the cerebral metabolism, which is the blood flow, oxygen, and glucose to the brain. Okay, so a lot of people that are feeling they have poor short-term memory, and they're not really sharp, and be able to respond. It's because they have limited cerebral metabolism, which is blood flow, oxygen, and glucose. Glucose is the preferred carbohydrate. In the Philippines, there's a product that I carry. It's straight glucose, and you use just enough to feed your brain to enhance that glucose metabolism. But of course, oxygen and blood flow. Matter of fact, Dr. Love talks about the cranial brush, and when you do this in the morning. And you're tapping into the spinal fluid, you get a blood flow to the brain. That's another exercise. But yeah, vinpocetin is, and then of course you have huberzine A, which is Chinese club moss. And there are, again, we just have to be very, very careful though. Not every product that says, oh, this is a brain supplement is not, there has to be good manufacturing practices involved. And that's one of the advantages I've always had as a health practitioner because I have product knowledge. I would attend the industry show and see where this raw material is coming from and see how they're manufacturing this product, what type of binders and fillers, because the fact of the matter is over 85 to 90% of the products that are out there are made from synthetics and rocks. So there's only a few companies that have a very sophisticated manufacturing process that's able to make a well-made supplement.
The natural ingredients, the natural instead of something like you said that's been synthesized.
Exactly. Because most of the stuff
BioStrap. You were talking about. What about BioStrap?
BioStrap is phenomenal. Was developed in 1964 out of Sweden. This product I use for mothers and fathers who have small developing children to enhance their cognitive function. This is the real deal when you talk about, and even with for all people, BioStrath is multidimensional. Also, it enhances cellular, it helps optimize the cell function, rejuvenation. Very good for seniors, for vitality. It's a fermented formula comprised of many different herbs. Matter of fact, even from various parts of Europe and China, they send their children what they call a BioStrath challenge because it actually enhances their academic performance in school. It literally enhances your cognitive function. I take it. I've actually started taking it when I was 17. When I first started going to the health food store, when they had the small mom and pop store, Albion clinician turned me on to BioStrack because I was looking for a multivitamin to help me be a better athlete because I was a baseball player at the time. And so he turned me on to BioStrack. But BioStrath, again, is also very good for radiation protection. I have a book by Dr. Schechter, it's an old book, and it talks about BioStrath protecting you from the EMF or electromagnetic force. Definitely So I sell quite a bit of BioStrap too, especially for young people. That's what my emphasis is really young people, 3, 4, 5, and up, so they can actually develop a superior brain function, cognitive function, because they've been so abused by commercialized foods right out the gate. And again, as I go back, most people have really never eaten real food. They've eaten chemical bulk matter, not real food at all, because it's been contaminated by some type of chemical, nothing straight from the farm. And that's why I encourage people to grow and teach your offspring to grow a garden. I went to a lecture about 12 years ago by the name of James South, a guy by the name of James South. And when he talked about gardening, he said, his grandfather told me, he said, Jimbo, you know what real men do? He said, no, Grandpa. He said, real men grow gardens, and that's something we need to put an emphasis on. And, as young as 3 years old, getting them out there. I was watching my grandparents grow things, and I have a garden now where I got several things. I grow some huge squash, huge. But I've used there's something called willet water that enhances that growth.
Willet water.
Willet water. It's from the old school. Yeah, it was developed by
WILLARD.
Yeah, yeah, like Willard in the rat movie. Yeah,
my cat's downstairs watching a Willard movie. I told you, right?
Yeah, Willard water was developed a long time ago, basically just cleaning pistons in engines. But they found that this had the ability to change the molecular structure of water to help make things more bioavailable to the body, to get them into the cells. But they've also shown that people have used Willard water on their produce, huge squash, huge cantaloupes, and things like that. And I have not used it on the produce. I would put it in my water, but I was looking back in some archives. Oh, man, I just planted some carrots and some other things, so I'm gonna try to see if I can get some gigantic carrots. But it has a long history, a bona fide track record. Matter of fact, on burns, there are people that had third-degree burns and sprayed Willard water, and it healed miraculously. But it's hard to find Willard. I carry Willard water through my dispensary, but it's hard to find it in the health food store because you don't really find the good health food stores like you used to find about 20 years ago because of the corporate giant.
Right.
People think that's a health food store and it's not. But there's so many different things out there from old school that we have failed to tap into because it's just we just don't have access to information. So, like the information I disseminate, the information like Brother Dave disseminates, Mother Kai, uh, all the brothers, that are on the show, we all bring something to the table. My approach, yeah, and I mean, and my approach is not always absolute. I mean, I am, basically every healing practitioner has something to bring to the table. Again, yeah, yeah. So but what I do has been is a manifestation of what I guess I was called to do. I've helped many people across the country, even myself. I mean, I've had some injuries, and I am, knock on wood, have never been on medication. Only medication I've ever been on in my 50 something years was an antibiotic, and a tetanus shot when I stepped on a spike. But that was it. But one of the things I definitely I said I want to give, there's like 30 notes or 30 tips I learned through Dr. Love and through Ron Teagarden. I have to mention he was also a mentor of mine. I followed him for years.
Is he
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's an Albion that married. Yeah, he's an Albion that married into a Asian royal family. He had access to all these secrets. Very, very humble guy. But one of the things that, well, matter of fact, this information came from Master Lee, who was an ancestor. And it's like, number one, respect yourself, the creators, the ancestors, and wildlife, all that gives life. Number two, respect your temple because your temple is what contains life. So you have to have a clean temple. The temple is within you, not some building. Okay. Number three, build and protect the three treasures, which is your Shen, your Chi, and your Jing. That's a whole nother subject matter. Develop willpower, which is very crucial in today's world of propaganda. You have to have will. And when you develop will, you develop strength, both physically and mentally. Five, develop your adaptability, which is the measure of your life. And if you make your mind and body more adaptable, it's able to resist all the negative influences around you. Because that's how we're compromised, is because we fail to adapt. We are put into a matrix, put in someone else's matrix. That's why I always tell people watch the original Matrix with Lawrence Fishburne and Keanu Reeves, and just listen to the dialogue. They put you into a matrix of make believe, and so you live in this illusion, thinking that you need them. You do not need them. You do not need them to feed you. You do not need them to clothe you. You can grow your own garden. You can unify. You can trade. It's like, for example, you're in a neighborhood. You got someone across the street growing peas and carrots. You got someone down the street growing okra, and squash. You got someone else down the street growing white corn, and melons. And you're trading among one another. It's simple as that. It's not rocket science. You
talk about vegetables. I don't mean to cut your wisdom, but there's a question that's come up a couple times in the chat about what about halal? I think you've mentioned halal before for yourself.
Oh yeah. Halal basically is just cattle that has been properly slaughtered. It has not been abused. They cut the main jugular when they're doing the sacrifice or whatever, and that's as opposed to, because what people don't realize, I eat animal protein, but it has to be halal. I will not go to a hamburger restaurant and eat anybody's commercialized hamburger. I'd rather go to a butcher and be able to prepare that burger on my own. Because what people don't realize, you really don't need to indulge in that much meat. And you see people eating chicken, day in and day out. You got some people probably eat chicken probably 365 days a year, you know. But it's like you're consuming the flesh of an abused animal, of a drug infested animal. You know, there's no praying, there's no ritual, before you eat this lamb or this bison or this beef, you know. So we have to, this is another part of the repercussions that we deal with because we're not being mindful, of it's not about the animal protein, but where are you buying it from? You're buying it on the shelf, it's been in plastic, setting up, or do you rather just go to a butcher that had like a freshly killed cattle? And if that's the case, I went to a restaurant. I was really hungry one day, and the temptation hit me, and I saw the people that were going in, and I saw what they were promoting. These little rank. I won't say it, but I just switched gears. Like, now I'm going to go buy a burger from I went to a kosher butcher, and I prepared it. And because when I do indulge in animal pro or burger, I use lettuce. I make a lettuce burger, not a. I don't eat bread with a burger. So I use the onions or whatever. But yeah, so if you're going to indulge in animal protein, yeah, it should be halal. If it's not halal, I wouldn't touch it.
There's a couple questions. A question here about what are your thoughts on castor oil?
Edgar Casey. Edgar Casey. You go into the writings of Edgar Casey, is phenomenal. Castor oil. Matter of fact, I had pneumonia, very severe case of pneumonia, back in 2016. I had taken, follow my protocol, vitamin C, glycine, things like that. But to top that off was castor oil, something my grandmother always taken. Matter of fact, we were always threatened if we got out of hand. Two things: we would either get a dose of castor oil, or we'd be put in the closet with the bad man. So, yeah, so we didn't want either one. So, but that was like a punishment. But castor oil, it should be hexane free. Uh, you know, yeah, this is a toxin. It's a toxin that they take out. That's a chemical. So, whether it be Home Health or either Heritage, which is the Edgar Casey product. Now, I'm not a big fan of Edgar Casey because of the history, but the system was phenomenal. I mean, they have a phenomenal. Matter of fact, I carry Heritage as well in my dispensary. But yeah, castor oil, castor pack. Matter of fact, the castor oil pack over the liver detoxifies the liver and the lymphatic system. This is one of the protocols with people that have cancer. It goes all the way back to the Gerson therapy, and it's phenomenal. So yeah, cold press castor oil.
So let me see. So I wanted to see if I can get some of the other questions. Make sure I know there was a question earlier on about can we regrow teeth, and that I think Pharrell L said she saw it recently. I think I saw that ad too. And then somebody else said that's for hybrid. Well, I don't know.
I apologize. It just made me think about something. But the thing is, most people don't realize. Like, when I would do lectures, I was like, why is it that archaeologists can dig up ancient civilizations and find skulls with the teeth still intact 5,000 or 6,000 years later, and people can't make it through their 40th birthday without losing their teeth? It's because of the refined sugar. White sugar is so dangerous. I mean, again, in the confectioner, what people think is chocolate is the confectionery. Also, you see a lot of people get into eating nuts. and they eat a lot of almonds and things like that, and they don't realize that stuff contains phytic acid, and too much phytic acid will start to eat up the enamel. That's why if you do almonds, almonds are excellent, but you only should be doing 4 to 5 almonds a day. That's it. But you get people buy almonds, they start eating the whole can, and that phytic acid is constantly eating off the enamel over time. So the other thing about teeth is oil pulling. Oil pulling is extremely, extremely important. It not only saves the teeth, I mean, it basically can prevent gingivitis because it pulls so much bacteria out. Because most people, I mean, like thousands of years ago, the average age, according to research, is about 40, 45. People die from gum disease. Okay, because
there's all kinds of diseases that when your teeth are bad, I
a
know that
direct impact on the cardiovascular system. Gum disease proliferates heart disease. Period. They really don't realize that. It's like your mouth and and then like I said, I have this is like the fluoride, I mean non-fluoride toothpaste. This is like one of the companies that I carry. This is from xylitol.
oh yeah,
Xylitol tastes like sugar, looks like sugar. It will kill many different forms of bacteria in your mouth, and it's excellent for sinus. But they put it in a toothpaste. You can do the oil pulling with the xylitol, and it will pull toxins out, many germs and bacteria out. Then, of course, you're flossing. Then you
how about
use
I have a metal
tongue scraper. You use a tongue scraper.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
use a
use a tongue scraper. You're supposed to, because if you look at like in one of the things in Chinese medicine that we do, we look at your tongue. Whenever someone is, I'm consulting, most of the time I'll ask for them to send a picture of their tongue because your tongue, the characteristics of your tongue can identify heart disease, stomach problems, gallbladder imbalances, spleen imbalances. All that can be found on the tongue. you
Mm.
know. So, people have ridges on their mouth and discoloration, things like that. That can identify, just like, with Brother Dave does iridology, stuff like that.
Yeah.
You look at the eyes and see all these things, I mean, we have to get back to the ancients, the ancient protocol of self-diagnosis, and but yeah, for those who have never done oil pulling, get you some virgin coconut oil or sesame oil.
How about
When
sunflower oil? Sunflower
sunflower oil, yeah, I've never used, but yeah, sunflower oil is in that category.
oil.
Um, when you first get up in the morning, people say, I keep forgetting. I say, when you first get up in the morning, just take a tablespoon of swig while you're getting ready to do whatever that morning. 15 minutes, rest, and of course in the toilet. I mean, not in the toilet, but in the trash can. And then you rinse with Celtic salt. You swish Celtic salt after that, and for about a minute or two. Then you brush your teeth. And yeah,
I also do. I use. Yeah, I know the ancient way is to use a neti pot, but I use a navage. The importance of keeping the nasal passage clear when in terms of there being germs and so forth, getting viruses and so forth. It's very important to keep the nasal passage clear.
that's why you got what they call an ear, nose, and throat doctor, because all that's connected. So
Hmm.
one of the things that I do in addition to that is I drop food grade hydrogen peroxide in my ear. Not the 35%, but the one that Heritage makes, which is a 3% hydrogen peroxide. Drop in your ear canal, hold it for 30 seconds or a minute, then you let it drain, then do the other one. Okay. Yes, that's why many people I know got allergies. I've never had allergies, had anything like that. Rinsing with your mouth with hydrogen peroxide, your nose, things like that, getting rid of the excess bacteria.
Hmm.
Even when you're out and about, protecting yourself with a resin like myrrh and combined with frankincense. which would protect your mucous membranes, even in your ear. This all through the Bible.
Should you put like you should you just inhale it or should you actually?
Yeah,
Because I mean,
there's an oil particular product I use, and I swab it in my nose when I'm traveling and in my ear. Because frankincense and myrrh is antiviral, antibacterial. You know,
okay,
yeah, neem is phenomenal because neem was one of the few herbs that was able to kill smallpox. And neem is phenomenal. Neem and turmeric combined, trying that for 2 weeks, the first thing in the morning. So there's so many different modalities, and they're grassroots modalities. Like I said, there's no such thing as a panacea. It's a system that we have to indulge in. A combination of detoxification, good food, exercise, qigong. Like I said, before we got into the other question, I was going into the six because it was like 12. I wanted to give them the six remaining ones, which is take tonics consistently, along with bioavailable vitamins, minerals, trace elements, and superfoods. I showed you one of the superfoods that I take with me periodically is this one here,
I think very yeah.
the acai. I have that with me, and oh, I forgot.
Biostrap. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Biostrap.
So nobody will say, oh, he's a hypocrite. This is my spirulina, which is my brain food. I periodically take this. This was developed by a medical doctor, Dr. Shamsuddin. I've used it since 2000 with even people that had advanced stages of cancer. Phenomenal and increasing the natural killer cell activity. So I take that. N-acetylcysteine, one of my favorites.
Okay.
Quercetin. Yeah,
Quercetin.
quercetin. Yeah, so and this is my favorite, one of my favorite waters because it's not in plastic, it's in cardboard and paper.
Okay, yes, mine's in plastic. Because someone did ask about alkaline water. What is it with alkaline? But I have a glass bottle with a crystal in it that I really should put water. I'm trying to find a natural spring somewhere to get
Yeah,
to get.
yeah, yeah, Arkansas. So going into seven, spend more time studying the connection between you and nature and reconnecting with nature, getting out, looking at the bees, looking at the birds, have a relationship. In my backyard where I have the garden, I have like the like doves and robins, and I'm outside. They don't run. They don't and but you have to talk to them. You have to talk to the plants as you grow in the garden. You ask, say good morning. You have that. You build a relationship with Mother Nature.
Mhm.
Even when you're getting out to do earthing, and you ground to go and stand next to a tree and you get yourself grounded. So we have to, as I was traveling on the train, I just look at all the things that this planet provides for us. I was looking at the train tracks, like that steel comes from a material out of the earth. The nails, the wood. What do we need? Man-made, literally man-made, that has defied and forsaken the natural laws of nature, the molecular. Because again, if it doesn't contain life, it cannot give life. If you're giving the body something that contains a molecular structure that's not found in nature, it will always fail. It will always fail. Number 8, eat only clean food. And that includes more vegetables. I see a lot of people. So I eat a lot of fruit. Well, you only supposed to eat a small amount of fruit. More vegetables, more cruciferous vegetables, things like that, like Brussels sprouts. Highly recommend for men because that does break down the estrogen, along with things like broccoli, cauliflower, asparagus. Uh, do deep breathing. Number 9, do deep breathing exercises. Most of us get up, we don't even take deep breaths, we don't stretch. And of course, avoid toxins, pollutants as much as possible. Toxic people that give off toxic vibration. they make toxic, conversation. That's energy. We have to stay and away and be able to navigate around these elements and these people that give off toxic vibrations. Uh, Pay closer attention to your body. Feel. You have to get into feeling. I always talk a lot about feeling. Feel what's going on in your stomach, what's going on in your head, your back, or whatever. Feel the body, and say, hey, am I, and you'll be able to intuitively tap into something, maybe something when you're breathing or whatever it may be. So you want to tap into your body more. Even your offspring, pay attention to them. How they're responding. You know, uh, and the last one's learn Blue Dragon Qigong. Qigong is phenomenal.
I had fun this morning. I really did. I was in a small space. I decided to go from watching it on my phone. It cast. I got found it on on YouTube on my TV, but I was in my bedroom, so I was trying not to slap things when I was trying to do the ball thing, the moving of
Yeah.
the arm and
If you travel, if you go into Chinatown and you see some of the old people, they'll do what they call the kidney tap. They're hitting their back because they're basically breaking up stagnation, and that's one of the problems that we're dealing with when we're dealing with pain, arthritis, pulmonary condition is stagnation. We got to learn to break up that blood stasis because as you're getting older again, your body produces fibrin. Okay, and you have to have what they call a systemic enzyme. That's why systemic enzymes are so valuable today because the enzymes like nattokinase, which is made from fermented soy, or serrapeptase, which is made from the silkworm, and then you have other enzymes that actually eat up the fibrin in the bloodstream, so you have better vascular flow. Um, it also works as a COX-2, a natural COX-2 inhibitor, which is a inflammatory condition, and it also balances the interleukin system, what you call IL-6. So so yeah, we have to break up that blood stasis and that phlegm. If you can't take a deep breath and you getting cut off, there's something going on. You got to get rid of that excess phlegm in the body. And then and going back before I forget about August. August is a very important time to start building the immune response. Most people don't know that. Start jump starting your immune system, like with antioxidants, flavonoids, like the herbal tonics, that tone and invigorate the kidney liver system, tone and invigorate the respiratory and pulmonary system, exercise, deep breathe, so your body can take on these toxic elements, and you'll be surprised when you get into a combination of all those things, clean food, refraining from dirty, chemical infested food, and getting into a more simplistic diet, but a more at the same time more diversified. Remember we talked about purple potatoes, garnet yams, quinoa, chickpeas, zucchini, all these different things that we can consume. Bok choy, that's very good. I'll give a freebie out. There's an aloe vera that my mentor, which came from Dr. Love. You're taking aloe vera from the real plant, you fillet it, and you put it in a blender, add some garlic and a few ounces of water and blend it up. Excellent detoxifier for seasonal change. And of course, going into a fast. As Dr. Love will point out, you try to fast at least 1 day a week where you're doing either water or juice fast, three consecutive days on a juice feasting per month, and 7 days or 10 days as the seasons change, so your body can, become more balanced, and so, but we do the same thing year round and we don't modify. And we have to modify our diet, our lifestyle in order to modulate the immune system. Like what we're dealing with now What a lot of people are not talking about, they keep talking about the condition, but they're not talking about the cytokine storm. So you got to be real mindful not to overstimulate your immune system, but modulate it and teach it how to keep maintain balance. Because there are certain things you can take that will overstimulate, that could exacerbate that cytokine storm. And that's the value of things like N-acetylcysteine, flavonoids, systemic enzymes to keep that balance, along with quality food, hydration, and de-stressing yourself by doing the qigong, by getting into taking adaptogens, whether it be American ginseng, whether it be rhodiola, whether it be ashwagandha, Celtic salt, pantothenic acid, things that are going to support the adrenal function, along with the qigong. And when you get into the qigong, I mean, it's just going to take your mind, body, and spirit to an entire level, because it's not just about supplementation. Because I'll be really, taking you up the river if I just say buy this supplement, and not incorporate things like qigong and all the other modalities. Health does not have to be expensive. A word of advice, what Dr. Love and I had always talked about: prevention is the only cure. Prevention is the only cure. So you have to invest in prevention. I don't care what type of car you drive, how big your house is, what type of shoes you got, or whatever, how much money you have in the bank. All these people that came before Steve Jobs and all these different people, money cannot, as Dick always used to say, money is not power, information is power. And you have to learn to exercise and internalize the information. And from that point, you keep your life simplistic. When you're simplistic and grounded and connected with nature, you're able to maintain balance. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I heard Dr. Love mention today about a lot of people are breathing and just breathing naturally, like on autopilot, and not really, being in touch with the breath. And I know one of the things that yoga has done for me is to bring me in touch with my breath, to be able to deep breathe, all the way down into the abdomen, and to when you're inhaling, your abdomen should go out, and when you're exhaling, it should sink in. But we breathe shallowly on autopilot, and we don't have
Exactly.
the cycle is incomplete. But I've noticed that I'm very cognizant now of my breathing, now that I've been doing yoga, and I have to, when the practice comes, it eventually it becomes a part of what you're doing. But before, all my breath was up here. You know what I mean? It was shallow breathing, and I was having sometimes trouble getting a full breath in. But now that I have that deep diaphragmatic breathing thing going, I notice that part of me seems to be. I feel better in the lung area also.
Mhm.
In the lung area. Someone asked, is DMAE a safe and effective supplement for cognitive function?
It's safe. I mean, it depends if it's necessary for your particular condition. And when you talk about cognitive function, it just depends. I'm a provider for ZRT Labs, which is one of the top companies in the country that uses nanotechnology for the good, to measure neurotransmitter activity. There's gamma-aminobutyric acid, there's DHA, there's vinpocetin, there's DMG, there's phosphatidylcholine, phosphatidylserine. There's many different formulas up there. You want to find out if that's appropriate for you, and that's why consultation
I was getting ready to say that.
is
Um,
important. You got to deal with what makes me different than most practitioners is that I have product knowledge. Because being in the and going to the industry shows, literally visiting the companies and looking at. That's why when I provide a protocol, it has to have good manufacturing practices. It has to have proven efficacy. If it doesn't have proven efficacy, I will not even incorporate it in my practice. So you have to have, because you hear stuff say, "Oh, I'll take this or take that." Well, you're generalizing that. Everybody has a different physical constitution. Everybody has a different pre-existing condition Everybody has a different stress level. Some people have dealt with trauma. So these are some of the underlying causes that could be that are causing your condition. But if you just shoot from the hip, you can be wasting your money. I'm not going to provide a protocol for you to say, yeah, I'm dizzy on this. I'm not going to give you a protocol and provide the same protocol I would provide for 10 other people because you all have a different situation.
Right.
So different blood type, different physical constitution, different environmental life, the type of work environment you're in. So we have to address the body as a whole, not just say, "Oh, I need energy." Well, you could be taking the wrong thing for energy. Ashwagandha may not be appropriate for you. It may be American ginseng. It may be Shizandra. Okay, it may be gynostema. It may be pantothenol. So it just depends. So that's why, as practitioners, we carefully analyze your complaint and your malady. And so we can, once that the appropriate assessment is done, then we're able to implement the appropriate protocol.
I'm trying to read a question and respond, but someone wanted to know what is called grounding. My watch is in my desk drawer talking to me. I took it off my arm because it was talking and it's telling me to do exercise. Like, this is crazy. Could you explain grounding? I know what grounding is,
Well,
but
grounding and earthing, what you're doing, number one, you're still reconnecting with nature, and you're actually interchanging energy with the trees or the elements, and so you're kind of debriefing or excelling, as I call it, from the toxicity, because you're overly exposed to EMF from the cell phone, from the computer, if you do microwave, and you have to connect, and that's going to pull those negative vibrations and in negative frequencies from your body when you're doing grounding or earth, or what they call. There's a book called Earthing. It talks a lot about that. Yeah, earthing. And
yeah,
so, again, there are many modalities. I mean, that we can incorporate. The world and the creators have given us so many things to work with, and as health practitioners or holistic practitioners, we're here to, we- you know, we always walk around with our cup half full. Again, I'm not absolute in any area. That's why I continue to study. My mentors, uh, you know, I learned that from our mentors. They constantly read. I actually study about 50 hours a week on the average. I'm reading about literally 50 hours a week. Dr. Love is doing the same thing. You constantly, because there's so much in the universe, you'll never learn it all in this lifetime. But you have to constantly remain on that quest of knowledge. You got to constantly seek knowledge. You can learn things from the layman. You can learn things from your own client. So we don't know it all. So that's why we continue to we're on this journey for knowledge.
yes. Well, this has been awesome. This has been amazing, and I stayed awake. You notice, we thought we were going to do an hour and a half because I was so tired. Uh, but this has been exciting, and I mean, I think I'm just trying to go through, see if there are any other burning questions. I know people are okay. I just want to make sure there's nothing that we need to address.
I see something in there about the pendulum. Yeah,
Well,
the pendulum.
use your body as a pendulum. I do pendulum stuff not with my body, but with my intuit mind. So, but yeah. Um, Let me see. I just want to make sure there's no anything that needs to be fasting, detoxing. Okay. I don't know if you see anything in there that you want to address.
Uh, you know, I, you know,
I I do want to say this that
Somebody,
I'm earthing right now while I'm grounding right now while we're talking. I have a earthing mat from the people that wrote the book Earthing.
hmm
I actually have a mat right here on the floor on my the chair pad that you rolled your chair on. I have one here, and it's attached and grounded into the system, and it simulates the earthing of grounding when you have your feet out on the bare feet on your bare on the bare ground
right,
rather.
right,
Right.
right, right.
So I've been grounding the whole time that we've been speaking. I'm always whenever I'm here, I have my shoes off and I'm grounding on this mat.
I did see a question about distilled versus spring water, and I've talked about this many times. Distilled water is definitely good for fasting. However, if you're distilling water and you put it in plastic, guess what it's going to do? It's going to take on anything it's connected to. So it's going to take in all that toxicity from the plastic. So if you're going to use distilled water, it should be a distillation process, carrying the water steam as it converts over to glass, not in plastic. And that's why you see the distilled water in the areas where you see the starches and stuff like that is really not. I don't approve from drinking distilled water from plastic at all. As far as like fish, I see somebody said something about fish. Yeah, there's I just looking there are sites on there that tell you the fish that are safest to consume. Of course, things like shrimp, things that live in. I know, of course, shrimp is a scavenger, so is catfish. You want to have fish that swims or thrives deep within the ocean, away from mercury. I mean, it's just unfortunate what the industrial revolution has done. I remember I partially grew up in the Bay Area, and I saw a documentary of how they had every form of seafood you can want in the Bay Area before they started mining silver and mercury. And it was spilled. Mercury will be the end byproduct from the processing, and it will go down and just destroy all sea life down there. This man that has colonized this land has done so much damage. It's just sad. It's beyond sad what has been done to our beautiful environment because of greed.
All right.
But yeah, you just want to be mindful of the types of fish. There are many sources out there that can they help you find or guide you to the appropriate fish to consume or seafood to consume.
Okay. Okay. I was wondering where that sound was coming from. Um, well, we are at the end. I have a couple of announcements I want to make. I want to first of all thank you so much, Dr.
Thank
Botanica,
you.
for enlightening myself and my audience, those who are on the actual live call and those that are going to see this afterwards. Um, I've got your contact information scrolling across the bottom of the screen in hopes that folks will reach out to you for consultation. And, just like you said, every situation is different. So, there's no one shot. I'm trying to figure out what's talking besides me. My phone, my watch. I'm stripping myself of things talking. But anyway, if you want to know exactly what is what's good for you, then please give Dr. Botanica a call. And as far as announcements, I made an announcement last week. I gotta correct myself this week. I had said that there was going to be a Marley Festival the day after our August 27th event. And so if anybody wanted to stay over, they and it was free. And the next day, the organizers let me know that they made a decision that on Friday evening to change it to October 2nd. So now it's going to be October 2nd. It's going to be in a different location in Wilmington, but it's going to be 10 notes to get in October. I was going to have another event. We were thinking about it at the beginning of October. We will not be having another event at the beginning of October, possibly the 4th or the 5th Friday. of October, we will have another live event, but we won't be having a live event at the beginning of the month. But I do have this announcement also for anybody staying over on the 27th to the 28th of August for that event. I will be doing one of Dr. G's nature church walks. And I'm inviting those who want to take that walk with me. They used to see me do online. It's going to be an 8 a.m. walk. I don't know why do you hear that, or is that just me?
Mm-mm.
Okay, I'm going off. It's going to be an 8 a.m. nature walk. We're going to do. We used to call it Nature Church. And I'm inviting those who are coming for the 27th event and staying over at least till the 28th to join me for it's going to be a couple mile nature walk. So that's just, I'm putting it out there, but there's no Marley Festival on the 28th because I did say it was going to be. They've moved it to October. With that, I think I'm going to, we made a pact that we're going to try to get to sleep, start getting to sleep by 11.
Yeah, by 11.
Whatever our times where you have an extra hour because you're in another time zone, but it's good. Look, I got 55 minutes. So I just want to say again, thank you for all this information. Thank you to those of you in the chat room. You are the best. You are phenomenal. This was one of the best chat room comments that I've ever seen. Everything was mostly in line with what was being talked about and was positive. And hey, people can learn from each other. People are actually learning from each other. Thank you, Brother Dave, for being in the chat room. But this is what it should be about. We should be able to build on what's being actually said and not be going off on tangents, even though I know sometimes, the tendency is to do that. But this was a phenomenal piece of information. I do want to add, like you said, keep that mind clear of allowing yourselves to be infiltrated by the agenda that's being broadcast. And it's coming up on your phone every time I look. It's telling me about somebody that didn't get this, and now they're like this. I'm like, would they stop? And they were only 39 or 33. I'm like, please. And those things do get it. You said it. Once you get I think a lot of people die from suggestion. The suggestion, the seed of suggestion in their minds, and they like, I must have that because this is what that, and you just manifest stuff. So
there's a song that I highly suggest people to listen to by Earth, Wind, and Fire. It's called All About Love.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and listen to that. When you listen to that from the That's the Way of the World album, it really allows you to tap into what is really real. And that's where we have to get back into. Like you said, we got to stop. You got to turn those apps off that's putting this nonsense out there in the airwaves. Listen to some jazz or R&B or some old documentaries or whatever to get away from that. This is what is destroying you. Like I said, the propaganda is more dangerous than the so-called germ. Period.
Someone's asked for your Cash App. What's your Cash App? Yeah.
I have Venmo and PayPal.
Okay. So you PayPal.me.
All health concerns at PayPal.
Okay.
All health concerns. Yeah.
All health concerns. Okay.
My Cash App was. I was messing around with the PIN code. You know how they are.
So I thank you. We thank you. Reach out. I did put PayPal. If you could do it, if you want to support during PayPal, please do that. Reach out, or if you have Venmo, please do that, and please support the channel. Also, I've been running my stuff up here, so we just want to make sure that we keep this going and we can bring you more and more. Looking forward to seeing a lot of you on August 27th. It's going to be exciting, amazing, and there'll be some surprises. I'm going to be giving away some stuff, and I'm vending as well as being one of the speakers. So I got some neat stuff too. So I'm excited about seeing all of you who have all like I think we have about 75 that have that paid before we had to cut it off because we also had a list of guests and everything that had to add in there. And House of Reawakening Minds does not have its what is it? Its big edifice yet.
Mm.
We don't have our large edifice yet, but we are looking forward. We know to seeing each and every one of you on the 27th. So with that, last words, final words.
Prevention is the only cure, and thank you, Dr. G. I mean, people. I hope people really, just contact another 10 people. I mean, this is a phenomenal network. You are a phenomenal woman. You are just the foundation that our people need. I mean, seriously, you are the network. And there's never been anything like it. You should know that.
We going over to the other channel soon. Somebody asked,
Yeah.
said, the metaphysical ish. I forgot. Somebody said, I saw, I don't know who it was. I don't want to say it was the wrong, who said it, but I saw your message and you're right. I do have the 1,000+ subscriber. And so there'll be, and hopefully you have click that bell so you'll be notified when we go live. But I'm working on my first show. It's going to be one of those reading type things, and I'm looking forward to that. And then Dr. Botanica and myself will be doing a Pendulum Mondays, and that's when you're going to get to ask questions about certain things, and I'm going to use the pendulum to give you some responses, And I've been using the pendulum for some time, and Dr. Botanica can attest that I get some pretty amazing and validated responses. So we're going to start doing the Pendulum Monday over on Dr. G's official.
Yeah, you blew my mind when we were. I mean, I slept on that. That's real.
And some other stuff recently, which we can't talk about, but it was validated.
Yeah, it's absolutely
Validated. So that way, I think what we'll be doing on Pendulum Mondays is we'll actually be taking questions, yes, no questions from you, the viewers, and we'll be doing the pendulum readings and so forth like that. But that's coming along with other stuff over there. And thank you. Who gets 1,000+ subscribers with no content? House of Reawakening Minds is because of you. You all trust in what we've done over here, and we're going to continue to do that. Nothing's going to leave here, but we're just going to have this other channel to kind of be more focused on those woo-woo stuff. That's what I call it, metaphysical woo-woo stuff. So again, thank you. I should have been gone. I said 90 minutes, and here we are, 13 minutes after the 2-hour mark. But when it's good, right? What can you say?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right.
You are the paradigm shift for information.
Somebody say cut it off. All right. Okay. Peace and love to all of you. We out. We out until the next time. Okay.
Till next time.
Dr. G. Really? Who's she?
Yeah, that's me.
Dr. G. Really? Who's she?
Yeah, that's me.
Dr. G. Really? Who's
Yeah, that's me.
Dr. G. Really? Who's she?
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 Yeah, that's me.